This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. We know what this show's about. We know what today is all about. It's about the NBA Finals, which is where your boy's at right now. Oakland, California, site of Game 1 of tonight's NBA Finals at the Oracle, the Golden State Warriors, the reigning, defending NBA champions, set to go up against LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers. And there's a lot of different angles that folks can take from this. There's a lot of different things that people want to say, and I get all of that. I truly, truly do. But listen, here's what this comes down to, okay? No matter which way we slice it, no matter which way we want to sit up there and parse words with it, here's the bottom line. When you look at LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers, you ask yourself one simple question. You know what that question is? How in the hell are they going to win this finals? How's that going to happen? I mean, after all, I'm looking at them in the Eastern Conference Finals, okay? LeBron James averaged 33, 9, and 8 against Boston in that 7-game series. Shot 52% from the field, 40% from three-point range. And when you looked at him, it was incredible because at 33 years of age, in his 15th season in the league, this man put in 41 minutes per game. Ladies and gentlemen, do you know who the next number 2 was on that list? J.R. Smith at 31.6 minutes. But just 6 points per game on 25% shooting. My God. My God. And then you just go down the list. Kevin Love, assuming he's out of concussion protocol, haven't played 6 of those 7 games. Averaged 12 and 9. Shot 37% from the field. Okay? Another guy, the Jordan Clarksons of the world, at 30% from the field. You look at guys like a George Hill, a guy like Jeff Green, a guy like Kyle Korver, who, by the way, shoot 42% from three-point range in the conference finals. That's what he did. And you're looking at all of these guys, and the only person that averaged double digits for the Cleveland Cavaliers in the conference finals against Boston was Kevin Love. George Hill, 9.6 points. Jeff Green, 8.7 points. Kyle Korver, 8.6 points. Tristan Thompson, 7.4 points. JR, 6.1, like I told you. I mean, what in the hell are the Cleveland Cavaliers going to do to beat this team? And it really, really begs the question, and it leaves you and I sitting here wondering whether or not this is going to be a series. We're hoping and praying, ladies and gentlemen, because it's the finals. We don't want to poo-poo anything. We don't want to just summarily dismiss the notion of a competitive championship round. We don't want to sit up there and look at it and say, you know what? Let me turn the channel. There's no shot at this being a series. Of course, we're not going to do that because it's LeBron James on one side, Kevin Durant on the other. It's LeBron James on one side, Steph Curry on the other. It's LeBron James on one side, Klay Thompson on the other. It's LeBron James on one side, Draymond Green on the other. What's the problem? I mentioned several names for the Warriors. I mentioned one name for the Cavs. And that's really what this is about. And so when you consider that it's minus 1,000 in terms of the odds coming out of Vegas, basically 1,001, ain't that right, Nuno? And you're coming into game 1 as a 13-point underdog. Some people would sit up there and say, oh, well, damn, why even bother? Well, let me tell you why you bother. Because of LeBron James. But not for the reasons that you think. See, ladies and gentlemen, to all the LeBron James apologists out there, let me tell you something right now. Shut up! I don't want to hear it. I don't want any excuses. No excuses. The fact of the matter is, Cleveland is not a superior team. It's Golden State. We get all of that. But this is basketball. And let's say for the sake of argument that Kyle Korver and J.R. Smith and Kevin Love don't resemble what they were in the conference finals and instead resemble what they were in the conference semifinals against Toronto, where 2 of the 3 showed up and hit perimeter shots. Does that not change the complexion of everything that we're seeing going on, all of our expectations? Does that not change the complexion? I think it does. I think it does. Hypothetically speaking, so Nuno, my producer extraordinaire, and Jonathan Winter, my producer extraordinaire, and Cat Pastor, my producer extraordinaire, so they don't roll their eyes, yawning at me, looking at me and saying, Stephen A., what the hell are you saying? What I'm saying is this. In the game of basketball, if supplementary parts, a.k.a. your supporting cast, shows up to do something other than taking your clothes to the laundry or giving you high fives when you do something great, as Saturday Night Live spoofed a few weeks ago about the Cleveland Cavaliers. If they actually show up and are hitting perimeter shots, why can't LeBron do damage? Why can't LeBron and the Cavs make this series compelling? This is basketball. This is not football. This is basketball. If you got a superstar that plays lights out and other guys that just simply hit perimeter shots and defend, why can't this be something? Why can't this be interesting? See, this is where I'm going with all of this. I just don't want to hear it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is LeBron James' 9th NBA Finals. He's been an underdog 7 times. How come when we bring up the greatness of LeBron James and we talk about who he is and what he means to this game and how phenomenal he is, and he is. He's on the Mount Rushmore. There's no doubt about it. But how come it is that when we talk about him in that light, we negate the fact that he's been an underdog 7 of 9 times he's been in the finals? If you are the underdog in 7 times in 9 finals, what does that say about you? What does it say? I mean, at some point in time, rather than getting on your knees and bowing at the altar of his greatness, how about standing up and asking, why are you continuously the underdog? What is it about you? Let me switch this question around and ask you, ladies and gentlemen, a simple question. Would LeBron James, are you ready for this? Look at me, Nuno, when I'm talking to you. Jonathan, Cat, you listen to me. I have a very simple question that I don't think has ever been asked. If LeBron James, and this is to my listeners out there, the nationwide, L.A., New York, Houston, or West Palm Beach, baby, San Antonio included, and everything in between. A very simple question. If LeBron James had the assassin's mentality of a Michael Jordan, would he have been the underdog 7 times in 9 finals appearances? The answer would be no, ladies and gentlemen. It would be an emphatic no. Which means that if he was the underdog 7 times out of 9 appearances, that there is something about him that the odds makers are saying is lacking. Some serious stuff. Now, that's not a popular statement to make. I don't give a damn. I'm not here to win popularity contests. If I wanted to do that, I'd be a politician. I'm here to speak truth. It's a question nobody has asked, and I'm tired of folks not asking it. This is basketball. It is not football. I want somebody to be real about that. And that's what I want everybody to be focused on as these finals unfold. I know that Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green and Kevin Durant are surreal. They're lethal. They're big time. I got news for y'all, ladies and gentlemen. This Golden State Warriors team is not the same team as last year. There's been some vulnerabilities exposed. They're not the same team defensively. Not continuously. As explosive as they are offensively, there have been times when something has been missing from them. Their durability is a question mark because when you get physical with them, they don't like it. They become a bit uncomfortable, as Houston exposed. When you combine that with Ty Lue and his decision to insert Tristan Thompson along with Jeff Green into the equation, knowing that they're bigger and longer, that they defend better, and, oh, by the way, rebound better as well, If you have them on the floor with their ability to move their feet and, dare I say, defend on the perimeter, doesn't that make things harder for Golden State? Doesn't that mean that Cleveland's defense is better? And if Cleveland's defense is better and Golden State's offense is a touch worse than it used to be, how come that doesn't give you a better chance when you have LeBron James, if he is indeed the greatest in the world? What am I missing? When are we going to wake up? This is basketball. How come we can't hold people accountable? How come we can't look at it that way? I'm trying to make this conversation competitive. I'm trying to sit up there and not just bow to Golden State, not just be somebody in Vegas, label them the prohibitive favorite, say they're going to blow the Cavs out, and that will be that. Ladies and gentlemen, for the first time in my career, I am hosting SportsCenter live from the NBA Finals tonight. Each game night of these NBA Finals, there will be a special NBA Finals edition of SportsCenter with yours truly, Stephen A. Smith. From 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 to 5 p.m. West Coast Time. What is that? 5 to 6 p.m. Mountain Time. 6 to 7 Central Time. Special NBA Finals edition of SportsCenter with Stephen A. Smith. I'm hosting it. And I got to tell you something. I'm hyped. I'm hyped because I love my job. I'm hyped because these are the finals. I'm hyped because regardless of the wishes of some, I am synonymous with the NBA, and I always will be. And the reason for that is that I've had a career, and I've made a career of calling it like I see it. And I'm here to tell you right now, it ain't going to be First Take. That's the First Take. First Take edition of Stephen A. Smith. Going to be a little bit different edition of Stephen A. Got to be versatile. Got to coordinate and adjust. And I will do just that. But I tell all of y'all that to tell you this. I'm not walking into these finals willing to concede. Oh, the Cavs going to get their butts whipped. I'm not doing that. I got a finals to cover. And I'm hellified excited about it. And I will not do it, and I will not allow you or anybody else to just concede defeat. This is basketball. I don't need 11 guys to show up. Look, let me explain something to you. Years ago, when I was the beat writer for the Philadelphia Inquirer covering the Philadelphia 76ers, I had people throwing stuff at their TV and petitioning the Philadelphia Inquirer for me to be fired. Because everybody was excited, and then NBC and Boz Sikahema, who's a good dude, works for NBC in Philadelphia. I miss that guy. He's always good to me. He's still there, I believe, but I'm not. Here's what happened. They came to me and they said, all right, so after doing a 2-hour-long special on the NBA Finals, the 76ers were back in the finals for the first time since 1983. All right, Stephen A., so what you got? You got the what chance do you give the 76ers? And I said, 0. None. Everybody, what? And you had people back in Philadelphia at cheesesteak spots and beyond throwing stuff at the TVs, wanting me to get fired. And I said, Shaq, and more Shaq. And oh, by the way, I didn't even get to Kobe. This is a wrap. And they said, but how could you say that? Because Shaq was 7'1", 350 and the most dominant force we had seen in our lifetime this side of Wilt Chamberlain. That's why. That's why. And they said, so you're saying that the 76ers are going to get swept? I said, no, not at all. AI will get you one. AI will get you one. But that's about it. After that, on June 15th, at the Wachovia Center, which is what it was called at that time, the Los Angeles Lakers will be crowned 2-time NBA champions, back-to-back champions. You can book it. They had beat Indiana the year before. They three-peated by beating the Nets, with Jason Kidd, Richard Jefferson, and Kenyon Martin and those boys for the third. But I had to let everybody know. Let's be very, very clear about something here so we understand each other. Shaq was too dominant. Ladies and gentlemen, the Golden State Warriors are incredible. They have an aerial assault the likes of which we have not seen. But they have shown you that with physicality in their face, pressed up against their body parts, they may not be as effective as they normally are. And dealing with James Harden and CP3 ain't the same as dealing with LeBron. Dealing with Anthony Davis and Drew Holiday, as great as Anthony Davis is, ain't the same as dealing with LeBron. Dealing with a Kawhi Leonard-less San Antonio Spurs squad ain't the same as dealing with LeBron. This is a different beast. And the difference between that Shaq Lakers squad and this is, well, in Kobe Bryant, you're talking about the second greatest off guard in the history of basketball. In Shaquille O'Neal, you're talking about the most dominant force known to man on a basketball court this side of Wilt Chamberlain. Physicality wasn't going to work with them. If anything, you had to pray that nobody got hit by Shaq's elbows. He was that monstrous. Golden State is more skilled. But in terms of dominance, they can be compromised. Now, are they going to be compromised to the level of, or to a point where they're going to lose this series? No, I don't think so. But could this series go 6 games? Yes, it could. Could it go 7 games? Although highly unlikely, yes, it could. Could a surreal performance by the greatness of LeBron James, if he gets production from other perimeter players, could they ultimately win this series? Yes, they could. It will not happen because you're asking me to put my money on J.R. Smith and Kevin Love and Kyle Korver against these boys, and I'm not going to do it. But what I'm saying is, do y'all realize that all those guys have to do is average 12 points or more on 45% shooting? Do you realize that that's all LeBron James needs if LeBron James is what we say he is? Do you understand that? Do you understand that? That's what I'm trying to get y'all to visualize and to see. I am in no way saying it's going to happen. But in other sports where you could sit there and say it's impossible, it's not impossible in the NBA. It's not impossible with basketball. You can have a superstar who outshines all the other stars and gets nothing but quality production from his supporting cast. And that's all you need in basketball. That is the truth. It cannot be denied. 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. That was Straight Talk Wireless. Nationwide coverage of America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. Got Jeff Van Gundy coming on with us to start off hour number 2. Looking forward to that conversation. Again, reminding you that I will be hosting an NBA Finals, a special edition of SportsCenter from the NBA Finals, live with yours truly, Stephen A., every game night from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 to 7 p.m. Central, 5 to 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 4 to 5 p.m. West Coast Time. Special edition of the NBA Finals on SportsCenter, being hosted by yours truly, Stephen A. Smith. Don't miss it. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. More talk with you all about these NBA Finals, about this matchup, about how much of a realistic chance you're willing to give the Cavaliers in this series against the Golden State Warriors. And more importantly, I need somebody to explain to me, if LeBron is as great as everyone says he is, myself included, can somebody explain to me why he's been an underdog in 7 of his 9 NBA Finals appearances? Inquiring minds would like to know, especially Stephen A., right here on ESPN Radio.
Ryan! I don't know how else to say this, so I'll just say it.
What is it, Linda?
I think we should see other people.
Are you breaking up with me? On a roller coaster?
Well, we do have a lot of fun. Maybe we should stay together.
An emotional roller coaster? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
I just need a little me time.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, coming at you live from the NBA Finals, site of Game 1 tonight at the Oracle in Oakland, California. Game 1, NBA Finals, LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers set to go up against the Golden State Warriors. They are prohibitive underdogs. The Golden State Warriors are favored to win this by at least 13 points. Vegas has them as 1,000-1 odds. 1,000-1. Biggest underdog in NBA Finals history. LeBron James has been an underdog in 7 of his NBA Finals. If he is so great, even though we all know he is, that's kind of hard to imagine. Kind of hard to imagine. As it pertains to that debate about LeBron James and errors, I got to give Isaiah Thomas, my buddy, credit. 2-time champion with the bad boy Detroit Pistons, NBA analyst for NBA TV. One caller called up, said he might have been hating on Michael Jordan. All right, fair enough. That's a fair criticism. But it doesn't mean that Isaiah Thomas don't know what the hell he's talking about when he's talking about basketball. Let me also say this. The argument that he made in favor of LeBron James is the most profound argument that I've ever heard on behalf of LeBron James. When Isaiah Thomas came on this radio show yesterday and said, Stephen A., he said, I had Chuck Daly. MJ had Phil Jackson. Kobe and Shaq had Phil Jackson. Who the hell has LeBron James had? That's not to say that the Mike Browns of the world and others couldn't coach, and Ty Lue can't coach, because I think Ty Lue can coach. But it is to say that is a valid point. Those guys have been associated with Hall of Fame coaches, and they never won until they had those coaches. Whereas with LeBron, Eric Spoelstra, but that was Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra. So you see where Isaiah Thomas is going. Good points, no doubt about it. And by the way, just for y'all edification, I'm sure that y'all will be interested in knowing this. I took the liberty of reaching out to Michael Jordan. And Michael Jordan said to me, quote, you can't compare eras. He's the greatest of his era. Whoever was the greatest of my era and before that, it was what it was. Leave it be. Because we'll never be able to compete against one another, so it's hard to say. I respect the hell out of the greatest player that I've ever seen in Michael Jordan, but I will tell you that I respectfully disagree with him. I do believe that when you look at eras and you see how soft this era is in terms of the rules of the game compared to what Michael Jordan had to endure and Isaiah Thomas had to endure, the road to prosperity matters. For example, when we look at a Charles Barkley, do y'all understand that in a Game 7 against Hall of Famers, Charles Barkley once dropped 44 points and 24 rebounds? One of the reasons why Charles Barkley is universally respected, even though he's not a champion, is because we saw who he went up against and what he did when he went up against them. If it were not for Jordan, Barkley would have been a champion. Gary Payton would have been a champion. Karl Malone would have been a champion. Clyde Drexler would have been a champion without having to go to Houston to do it. Magic Johnson would have had a 6th ring. It was Jordan that stopped them all. Ewing got stopped by Jordan. Reggie Miller got stopped by Jordan. And then ultimately Shaq and Kobe. Ladies and gentlemen, the Cleveland Cavaliers might have won a title. Remember when they had Larry Nance and Mark Price and Brad Daugherty and Craig Elo and those boys? They would have won a title if it wasn't for Jordan. So the greatness of Michael Jordan stopped a whole bunch of teams that were considered better. LeBron has 5 NBA Finals losses and for all intent and purposes is en route to a 6th. See, I look at things like that. Why don't y'all? 888-SAY-ESPN. That is the number to call up. You're listening live to Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. My man JP in Brooklyn. Talk to me, big baby. How you doing?
What's up? Love you, baby. Thanks for having me. Now,
No
Michael
problem.
Jordan, when he said that that's a consistent argument he made throughout his career, as far as you can't compare errors.
JP, do me a favor. Do me a favor, JP. I need you to speak up a little bit more so my audience can hear you. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. The argument Michael Jordan is making, that's a consistent argument he made throughout his career, whereas you can't compare errors. However, you can, at this point in time of basketball, it's been around, especially how much information is out, how much you can learn. People like LeBron James with the photographic memory can learn from different coaches without staying underneath that coach.
Okay.
And this is why I know I cannot give it. I'm not giving him no props. You can't be a Buffalo Bill. You cannot make it to the finals and don't win. If you don't win,
in fairness to him, JP, in fairness to him, the Buffalo Bills were 0-4. He's 1-2 en route to being 1-3. He did win one. So I'm only saying that to you to say maybe the Buffalo Bills is not the right analogy. Maybe the Atlanta Braves are. When they only got one World Series rings, despite all of those times they went to the postseason. But go ahead.
Giving LeBron James a pass for making it to the finals and not winning is not acceptable. Just like that 73 win team Golden State had. You're not the greatest team because you didn't finish the job like Jordan team did. And that's where I cannot give LeBron James the greatest of all time. If he don't pay attention to what is going on right now, KD is going to pass him. KD is 29, working on his second world champion, and he could be Finals MVP again.
You know what, JP? Fairness to you, I really didn't think about that. If Kevin Durant wins this title, he's only one behind LeBron.
There you go.
He's only one behind LeBron. I haven't even thought about that, JP. I got to give you props. Great call on that one. I didn't think about that. He would only be one ring behind LeBron.
The LeBron watch. LeBron is around. He's still on top of his game under his watch. So you can't be the greatest of all time.
Well, let me say this to you, JP. You know what else I think about, too?
Yes,
that
sir.
very point. Listen, JP, this is a big moment for you. I got to give you props on national radio right now because here's why. Based specifically on what you just brought up, do you realize that may be the very thing that influences where LeBron goes this offseason?
Well,
because if he sits up there, not to say literally speaking, but figuratively speaking, or theoretically, if he hears the JPs of the world saying that Kevin Durant is only one ring behind him, who's to say that doesn't dictate whether he stays east, whether it be remaining in Cleveland or going to Philadelphia, or whether he elects to go out west with Houston?
He got to guarantee a win. Because if one more, you tied. You cannot continue making this argument LeBron is the GOAT. That didn't happen with Jordan.
I got you. JP, I got to run, man. I appreciate the call. Great call on your part. Great points. No doubt about it. Chris in L.A., you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, Chris.
Hey,
Chris, do me a favor. Stay on the line. Stay on the line. I'm going to cut you off and bring you on because your signal is horrible. So I want you to get a clear signal, and I'll bring you back on. Brandon in South Carolina, you're live with Stephen A. What's up, Brandon?
Hey, what's good, Stephen A? Long time no talk, man.
Man, please, it ain't been that long. You spoke to me a couple of weeks ago, big baby. What's going on, man?
Yeah, man, look, this how I feel about it, man. I feel like, and you alluded to it in your sentiments when you opened the radio show today, I feel like Vegas and the overall public, they making it seem like the Warriors about to dog LeBron out. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
And you made this point, too, when you was talking about the Rockets. And I'm watching Game 7, especially the games without Chris Paul, where it had to be James Harden. He had to be that guy. And he had his anticipatory skills on point. He was stealing the ball. And that Rocket team was playing the same defense. So how you telling me if the Rockets can take them to 7 on a 7-man rotation, and LeBron is the guy, they've already played that championship defense against the Warriors before. I know they got KD, but as far as just having that mentality of getting the job done, and this ain't the same Warriors team. And one thing people are not considering, Stephen A., guess what LeBron was doing on Memorial Day while the Houston Rockets and the Warriors was playing? In bed, resting. He got an extra day, Stephen A. Ain't nobody talking about that. We know how much he take care of his body, man. And I know the series starts tonight.
But that's not something to take away from him. That's something to applaud him for. Because look, man, I think one of the things, Brandon, that we need to appreciate about LeBron, and I can be critical of him from time to time because I'm just gonna call it like I see it. But let's be clear about something here, man. I marvel at his physique, the way he takes care of himself. Listen, when you're worth over $1 billion, considering his endorsement deals, his salary, and what have you, and you know that you are the marquee and everybody's gunning for you, to care enough to have yourself in peak condition, where in your 15th year at age 33, you averaging more minutes than anybody in the league, you got to give love and credit where it's due, bro. You really, really do, Brandon.
Yeah, I definitely do give love and credit that. But I'm not talking about the perspective of applauding him for it. Because obviously any and everybody should always take care of their body.
But they don't. You know the game well enough, Brandon, to know most guys don't.
So that's what I'm saying. The fact that LeBron cares that way, and we should applaud him for that. The fact that he gets that extra day, I know how much that means to him. And I think he takes game 1 tonight.
Okay. Brandon is calling for LeBron to win game 1. So let me ask you this question, Brandon, before I let you go. How many games you have Cleveland winning in this series?
Cleveland in 6. This ain't the same Warriors team.
So you picking the Cavs?
Cavs in 6. You want Kevin Looney on the switch? Curry gonna switch on me? Nick Young, Jordan Bell? Wow. Come on now.
Oh my goodness, now. Brandon picked the Cavs. All right, Brandon, I appreciate it. Well, you know I'm gonna put you on it throughout this series. You got the Cavs winning at 6. You and Jay Williams are the only 2 dudes in the country that have picked it. Now, see, I got love for you because you know what I was gonna call you. I was gonna call you a fool, Brandon, but I got love for you, so I'm not gonna do that to you. I'm just gonna say, Brandon, we will talk to you another day, preferably tomorrow. We'll look for your call. Appreciate it. 888 say ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. More of your calls to Stephen A. live from the NBA Finals at the Oracle in Oakland, California. I'll take your calls before Coach Extraordinaire, NBA Analyst Extraordinaire, Coach Jeff Van Gundy comes on with us to start off hour number 2 the right way. You are listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
Guess what?
You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
Chris in L.A., you're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, babe.
Okay, Stephen A., is that better?
Yep, it is. Go ahead.
Okay, good. Okay. So 2 things that I want to point out. I think that the Cavs, obviously, I'm favoring the Warriors. I'm picking the Warriors to win, but I think the Cavs don't have enough guys to put the ball on the ground and make plays for themselves or others like Houston did. Because I'm bringing it up because your previous caller, Brandon, mentioned that he picked the Cavs in 6. I don't see it without multiple guys to get Golden State defense moving. And on top of that, LeBron is going to have to defend in this series. Didn't have to defend in the Boston series because he was able to move around, play in center field, regardless if it was Tatum or Brown, he was defending. And another thing I want to say, Stephen A., is I think that even if LeBron loses this, like many people are picking him to do so, me personally, I respect him more going down with a fight instead of him maybe jumping ship a year from now or this year, whatever the case may be, to join the team to try to chase a championship. I think he would be revered more by his contemporaries because at least he gave it all he had, being the best player in the world, instead of chasing after a ring, joining other superstars. And that's just my 2 cents on it.
I think LeBron James, Chris, is at a point right now where the only thing that could really, really hurt his legacy is if he tried to join the Golden State Warriors. I think that hurts him. I think anything else, I don't think he's bothered. If he decides to go to Philadelphia, we might not like that, but you're still in the Eastern Conference. You still got to deal with Boston, and obviously Cleveland without him is a lottery team. If he decided to go to Houston, you still got to go against the Warriors. If he decided to go to L.A., you still got to hope another star comes with you and build something in L.A., plus live up to the mystique of having to deliver a championship like every other major marquee star that has wore purple or gold had to deal with. So I think all of those things are challenges we can respect. The only thing that would make LeBron look awful to me is if he ended up joining the Golden State Warriors. Then we lose all respect for him.
Well, that'll never happen. At least I hope and pray it doesn't. But like, real quick question for you, Steve. I don't know if anybody's ever asked you this, but do you think he would have more pressure playing in New York or L.A.? I know he would never consider the Knicks, but do you think he would have more pressure in New York or Los Angeles?
I think Los Angeles. In New York, everything's house money. He gets New York to the first round of the playoffs. He's a god there. He's a god here in Gotham. So I'm telling you, this is my hometown. He gets to New York City and gets the Knicks to the playoffs where they're relevant. He'd be deified, and we'd appreciate him. And Dolan would get him billions on Wall Street as a favor. He goes to Los Angeles, it's far more pressure because they had Kobe and Shaq, they had Magic and others. And when you go to the Purple and Gold Lake of Nations, you're expected to deliver a title. I don't know if LeBron wants that pressure, but we're about to find out. Jeff Van Gundy in hour number 2, up next.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. You are listening live to Stephen A. Smith. I'm coming at you live from Oakland, California, site of Game 1 of the NBA Finals, Games 1 and 2 of the NBA Finals, by the way. It's going to be at the Oracle in Oakland. And by the way, let me just say this as an aside, not to get political or anything like that. I don't know how many of you have been to a game at the Oracle. It's a phenomenal arena. Arguably the best home crowd in the NBA. And the people there, the ushers and everybody and beyond are absolutely phenomenal. They're great, great people. And I just got to tell you that being at the Oracle, the one thing that rubs me the wrong way right now, ladies and gentlemen, NFL teams come and go, relocation or whatever. Same things with NBA teams. Same things with baseball teams. But my God, this place got all three in the process of happening to them. The Oakland A's are talking about moving from the Coliseum. I think it's San Jose or whatever. Don't quote me on that, though. But they're talking about moving. We know that the Golden State Warriors are moving to San Francisco. And, of course, you got the Oakland Raiders moving to Vegas in a couple of years. I mean, that just stinks. I just got to admit it. It just stinks. When I think about the people out here and the way sports teams fuel an economy, a local economy, and the fact that all three teams from those three major sports are all relocating, where does that leave the citizens of Oakland, California? It just really bothers me. It really does. I just had to get that off my chest. I'm not going to belabor it. I'm not going to, just focus on it. I'm not going to do that. I'm coming at you live from the NBA Finals. I got other things on my mind, but damn it, I love people. I love the human race. I love all kinds of folks as well. But I'm a proud black man. And I love my people. And to think about how those departures are going to affect the locals here via the local economy just really rubs me the wrong way. I just felt the need to say that. And I hope y'all can appreciate that. By the way, some breaking news for you. Kevin Love has completed the NBA's concussion protocol, concussion return to play program, rather. And he'll be available to play tonight in Game 1 of the NBA Finals. Kevin Love will be playing tonight in Game 1 of the NBA Finals. Now, he's got a load to go up against now because, remember, he's a defensive liability. And if there's anybody that has his number psychologically, it'll be Draymond Green, who's, by the way, leading the Warriors in these playoffs. For those of you out there that look at Draymond Green, right, and say, well, who the hell is he? I mean, he don't really matter. And you got the Charles Barkley's out there talking about wanting to punch him in the face and all of this other stuff. I got news for you. Kevin Durant is leading the Warriors throughout these playoffs. These 17 games in the playoffs. Kevin Durant is leading the Golden State Warriors, averaging 29 points per game. Okay? Do you know that Draymond is leading in practically every other category? Draymond Green is leading the Warriors in rebounds with 11.6, assists with 8.1, steals with 1.9, and blocks with 1.5. That's Draymond Green. an undersized Draymond Green, who's about 3 inches shorter than Kevin Durant, by the way, just in case y'all didn't notice. Kevin Durant is leading them in points. Draymond Green is leading them in rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks. It's going to be real interesting to see what happens. Can't wait to talk to Jeff Van Gundy in just a few minutes about how he's handicapping this NBA Finals series. It'll be real interesting to hear what he has to say. Until then, let's go to Joe in Jersey. You're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up, Joe? Talk to me.
Hi, Stephen A. How are you?
I'm all right. Put some bass in your voice, my brother. A national audience is listening to you. Speak up.
Sorry. So yesterday on Go Look and Wingo, you said that LeBron, like you didn't like that LeBron was weak mentally in the beginning of his career because he wouldn't take the last shot. But didn't also Michael Jordan, like he admits that going through the Pistons, that's where he learned to be mentally tough. It wasn't for the Pistons, he wasn't able to advance in his career.
Oh, you're going by his words. I'm going by what I saw. I saw a Michael Jordan that didn't lack mental toughness. I saw a Michael Jordan that needed to elevate his game more because the Pistons were literally beating him up. So he had to get with Tim Grover, the strength and conditioning coach extraordinaire, the trainer extraordinaire. He had to get in the weight room and bulk up and be able to withstand the physicality that the bad boy Pistons threw at him. But in terms of what the mind's eye actually saw, the eye test, Michael Jordan didn't lack toughness. He don't even try to compare LeBron to him in the early stages of their career in terms of mental toughness. LeBron wasn't even in the same stratosphere. Next question.
Yeah, but so you think just Jordan was a physical problem and LeBron was a mental problem, but it led to the same result. They weren't able to advance the championship.
Joe, did I not just tell you next question? Are you hard of hearing, or do you just want to hear a dial tone? That's not a subject we're entertaining. It's not even in the same stratosphere. And the only excuse you have for asking such an idiotic question is your youth. So how old are you?
26.
Oh, that explains it. You don't know any better. I forgive you. I forgive you. You weren't even born. You were a baby. As a matter of fact, you weren't even a baby, because that means if you're 26 years of age, you were born, what, 1992, 1993?
91.
91.
But I'm still a student. I still like to do my research.
Stop. You're a baby. I mean, do I need to do what? You weren't even wearing, what diapers were you wearing at that? You don't even know. You weren't even born when Jordan was going up against the Pistons. Just be quiet. Next question.
But I watched the documentaries where he said that if it wasn't for
Jordan,
the Pistons, he wouldn't be able to advance.
I'm giving you one last chance before you hear a dial tone. I'm giving you a last chance to ask another question. I'm not entertaining it. Now, unless you want to hear a dial tone and call back another day, ask another question. You were in diapers. You don't even know any better. You don't know anything. I don't give a damn about no documentary. I'm telling you. You didn't see it. I saw it. You don't know. What's your next question?
Do you think LeBron could do anything to hurt his legacy in this finals?
I just told you a few minutes ago he could hurt his legacy by electing to go to the Golden State Warriors after losing this finals, or if he plays horribly or chokes in crunch time. That would be a problem. I don't see any of those things happening, so I don't see him hurting his legacy. Have a nice day. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Is Jeff Van Gundy on the line yet? Is this man on the line yet? Because I'm about to have Jeff Van Gundy on the line. And I want to preface my comments by saying this. Jeff Van Gundy, from his time, first of all, if you're a New Yorker or you're a diehard Knicks fan, Jeff Van Gundy is somebody that we will love forever. Jeff Van Gundy was a fantastic coach for the New York Knicks, who guided them to a finals appearance, who knows his basketball backwards and forwards. I defer to this man in most situations. Did a great job in Houston, too, by the way, but is an even more fabulous basketball analyst. So let me be very, very clear. No matter how much I'm going to challenge Jeff Van Gundy, who is on the line with us right now, I want you to know I'm only speaking journalistically. I am humble enough to know my place, which is second-tier status to the likes of Jeff Van Gundy, who is on the line with us right now, who I'm about to get on. What's up, Coach? How are you, sir? How is everything?
Steven, how's everything?
It's great to talk to you, Coach. I mean, before we get into this finals appearance, I got on you about your quote about I was playfully getting on you about your quote about LeBron James and carrying this team to the NBA Finals and it being a great achievement or whatever. I'm going to say the same thing to you that I said to the great Isaiah Thomas yesterday. What is it about you guys ignoring the era in which you coached and the era in which he played? It was so much tougher back then than it is now. I think you guys ignore that era of toughness and don't equate that when it comes to LeBron James. To that you say what, sir?
Well, I think comparing eras is difficult, whether you're comparing teams or individual players. So I would agree with that the rules are much more, they're just so much different now. The proliferation of the three-point shot and putting shooting lineups on the floor is different. And I was saying just the other day, Mark and I were discussing, I said to Mark, to me, it shows you just how great Jordan was, right? Because Jordan was playing against much more physical defenses where the game wasn't tilted to the offensive player. There wasn't nearly as much space on the floor to do his work in because there wasn't as many three-point shooters on the floor, nor were people taking that many shots. So, that era, it produced Isaiah. If you're talking to Isaiah Thomas,
yes,
one of the great point guards of all time, obviously Jordan, the greatest individual player I've seen in my time in the NBA. And then, but I don't think that detracts at all from what I think James has accomplished. I think to get to 8 straight finals is such a significant accomplishment that at times we can start to overlook that accomplishment, plus how good he is, plus the differing teams he's had to deal with, particularly in Cleveland. That this team is in the finals, and to win a Game 7 on the road, where your second-best player is Jeff Green, I think is a significant accomplishment, as big and as good as any accomplishment he's ever had in the game.
So with that being said, Coach, don't laugh at them for saying this, but what were your thoughts about LeBron James and Steph Curry both speaking about how they hate how folks disrespect the supporting cast because they're so valuable and they're underappreciated? Based off of what you just said, what are your thoughts about LeBron and Steph Curry separately speaking in support of supporting cast overall?
Right, so I think there's 3 sides to that. James, you can obviously understand. He's trying to get his guys to perform at as high a level as he can. Curry is trying to generate worry and urgency for his team, not to overlook the Cavs, who, quite frankly, are the biggest underdogs I can remember in an NBA Finals in my time in the NBA. But then the third side is how we talk about the Cavaliers players. Because we say it's as big an accomplishment for James as he's ever had, that's not diminishing that these guys are good pro players. It's not saying that they're not, good and they haven't played a part in the accomplishment. But when your leading scorer is at 34 points a game in the playoffs and your next scorer is at 14 points a game and he was actually out of the last 2 games in Kevin Love, let's not try to make it what it's not. This wasn't a balanced, Cavalier effort. This was one great player carrying pretty good players to the finals. That's not saying they're not good players. That's not diminishing them. But it is putting in proper perspective what a great accomplishment James has had.
Coach Jeff Van Gundy right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. You said that this is the biggest underdog in an NBA Finals that you have seen. I think the one thing that's a bit surprising about it is that I think we've seen some vulnerability on the part of the Golden State Warriors, particularly coming off of their Western Conference showdown against the Houston Rockets. So they seem to be a touch worse than they were last year. Obviously, to some degree, we look at Cleveland, and there's a whole bunch of questions about them. But considering the adjustment that Ty Lue made with inserting Tristan Thompson and Jeff Green into the equation, making sure they got some more minutes, and they seem more formidable defensively, you don't give Cleveland a better chance than the odd makers have given them?
I think I give them less chance than the odds makers have given them. But I agree with you in this case. I'm interested. One, can Love play? If he does play, do they start both?
Sorry
and
to interrupt
Thompson?
you, Coach. Sorry to interrupt you. They announced just 5 minutes ago that Kevin Love cleared concussion protocol or what have you. He will play in Game 1 tonight.
Okay, so I'm interested to see if they start Love, if they bring him off the bench, because the Warriors, and you mentioned this, without Iguodala, I don't think you want to allow them to play their centers as much as you can, because then it leaves them very small, and they don't have a lot of perimeter depth. So I think you saw from Houston, who's a far superior defensive team than Cleveland, but you saw how they absolutely, both teams bottled each other up because they switched almost every action, left it to both teams to try to play one-on-one an inordinate amount of time, and all from the perimeter, not anybody you could throw the ball into in the post. And so I think what Cleveland's going to do is try to take away from Houston the best parts of what Houston did defensively that fit their scheme. But every time they play two bigs with Love and Thompson, I would be worried about the quickness and speed advantage that Golden State would have. It's hard to play.
But what if it's Jeff Green? What if it's Jeff Green and Tristan Thompson, Coach? What if it's Jeff Green
and
Tristan Thompson?
You know, I thought Jeff Green in the last game, you know, obviously the biggest shot of the game for Cleveland was when they had gone down 72-71. Green made the right corner three in front of the Celtics bench. But before that, I thought he just gave them more quickness in transition, had a couple transition baskets, and then his versatility defensively is much greater than they have with Love. And it would give James the ability to guard Green, and you could put then Green, I mean, I'm talking Draymond Green for James, and then Jeff Green could try to guard Durant. So I think you don't want James to have to be guarding Durant for a large portion of the game because he's going to have to do so much at the offensive end.
Jeff Van Gundy right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Based on what you're saying, Coach, I think it's all right to label Jeff Green the sleeper in this series because obviously you're going to have Tristan Thompson, who's shown us he's willing to be active on the boards, active defensively, and more importantly, as he has shown in the past, he could actually do some defending on the perimeter. He's got the foot movement that enables him to be effective out on the perimeter defending three-point shots. But with Jeff, in the case of Jeff Green, if he can hit perimeter shots for you, then if you're Ty Lue, you can lead Green in that game. And to me, that might be the sleeper to watch in this series, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think he's a big he's got a huge role in this series, whether he starts or comes off the bench. I would start him and continue to roll with the team that played so well in games 6 and 7. But then the other one for me, to give them any chance at all, George Hill has to be really good. Really good on offense, where he's making spot-ups and is aggressive in pick-and-roll actions. And then defensively with his length, he's got to be good whether he's guarding Curry or he gets switched on to Thompson. He's got that ability to be a really good defensive player. So the three, to me, most important players in this series for Cleveland, there's obviously James has to be better than he's ever been. Green has to continue on as he's played in Games 6 and 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals. And George Hill, he's got to play better on the road. He's been very good at home at times. He's got to be much better on the road than he has been.
You know what, but the way you sound, Coach, all of those things are possible. So if it's possible that LeBron James can continue to be the best player in the world, can continue to resemble the best player in the world, and Jeff Green can come off the bench for you or be inserted in there, and he can be effective, and George Hill can be effective. In light of some of the flaws we have seen in Golden State, watching them and covering them in the Western Conference Finals, Coach, I saw a team in Houston that got up in them physically and made them uncomfortable at times. Why would you give Cleveland a lesser chance than even the odds makers, considering those realities or the potential for those realities?
Yeah, so Houston had home court advantage. Houston was a 65-win team. Houston had the most valuable player in the league this year. Houston had a Hall of Fame point guard, even though he got injured at the end of Game 5. Houston had a role player in P.J. Tucker, who I thought at times was dominant in that series. Houston had Clint Capella, who I think has emerged as a very good player, and it still wasn't enough. And so when you line that up to what Cleveland has, and Cleveland's been a poor defensive team all year, I just don't – it's going to have to be, to me, lower scoring for Cleveland to win. It's going to have to be those Houston-type games, 101-92. I just don't see Cleveland having enough to score or to win a shootout. And I think with their defense and without home court advantage, it's going to be hard, to keep Golden State under 105. I really do.
So how long do you see this series going, Coach?
I think if, Golden State has that mindset of sweeping, that a sweep is likely, but I would never discount James not being able to come up with one, such a special game that they couldn't win one. So I'm going to say, Golden State in 5.
And how would you feel about Cleveland's prospects if Kyrie Irving was still a member of this team?
Well, they had him last year, and it still wasn't enough. But I think Iguodala's loss is significant. I think the hunger factor for Golden State, they've been trying to manufacture all year. I think, it just hasn't been there. At times they play a turnover-prone type of game. So, obviously Kyrie Irving, I think, what did he have, 40 last year in the win that they got in the series?
I think it's like 41, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, guys, you just don't get 40 in a finals game. I mean, it's just, that guy is so talented. So, with all that being said, I think obviously their chances would be much greater. They made a trade that didn't quite work as they had hoped. And yet, I give them so much credit as a team, starting with Ty Lue and the coaching staff, to James, to the rest of the roster. Somehow, through all of that, they beat Indiana in a tough series. They swept the top-seeded Toronto Raptors, and they found a way on the road in a Game 7 against a team who hadn't lost at home in the playoffs in the Boston Celtics. So I think they're going to have to shoot the three great to have a chance. It would be great if J.R. Smith and Korver caught fire and love the next 2.5 weeks for their chances. I see such an overwhelming talent advantage for Golden State. I can't picture in my mind how they're going to get it to a 6th or 7th game.
Coach, I want to make sure I correct myself. You were right. Kyrie had 40 in Game 6. That was their only win in the finals last year. He shot 15 to 27 from the field, shot 55%, dropped 40, and game 3 before that. That was Game 4 when he dropped the 40. The game before that, he had dropped 38 in the loss, also on 55% shooting. So you're right, he had 30 and 40, and then in the closeout game that they lost, he had 26. That's what I want to let you know. Coach, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to seeing you tonight.
All right, take care.
Thank you. One and only Coach Jeff Van Gundy right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. By the way, you're planning a summer vacation? You don't want to ruin the entire vacation snoring all night, do you? That's why you need to get a Zeepa. Zeepa's a game changer. If you snore, you're not sleeping, and vacations are supposed to be the best time for rest and relaxation. How do you expect to get any rest if they're snoring all night long? You need to get a Zeepa before heading out on vacation. Zeepa's the solution that helps you get that great sleep so you feel your best in the morning. Don't ruin another summer vacation with your snoring. Zeep is guaranteed to stop snoring. You seriously have nothing to lose. If you're not happy for any reason, return it for a full refund. So if you snore, you need to get a Zeepa. I want you to go to ZYPPAH.com. Easy to remember because Zeepa is Happy Z spelled backwards. That's Zeepa.com. Enter code Stephen A for free shipping, by the way. That's code Stephen A with a PH, not a V, for free shipping. Go to Zeepa today and ensure you have a great summer. Thanks again to Jeff Van Gundy, coach and analyst extraordinaire for ESPN, right here with the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio. Back to your phone calls and more with Stephen A. coming at you live from the NBA Finals in Oakland, California. Site of Game 1 tonight of the NBA Finals at the Oracle. Golden State Warriors, the reigning defending NBA champions, hosting LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers for the 4th consecutive year. Are you tired of it, seeing the Cavs against the Warriors? Or is this the matchup we all were supposed to see, that we all should have been waiting for? The answers to that question and more coming up as you're listening live to Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
I'm a one-trick pony. Literally. I show up at kids' parties and act cute. That's pretty much it. So excuse me for being bitter when Geico says not only could we save you money on car insurance, but we do more. Like give you 24/7 access online, over the phone, or even via our award-winning mobile app. Well, ooh la la. Aren't they multi-talented? Hey, I said organic carrots.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Let's get back to the phones and talk about some of the things Coach talked about and beyond. Let's go to James in Jersey. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, James.
How you doing, Mr. Smith? I appreciate you for giving me some time today.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I have 2 points that I want to make, but real quick, when you were down at Winston-Salem, did you ever play against Ralph Talley?
Against who?
Ralph Talley at Norfolk State.
I did not. I did one time, but here's the bottom line. He played. I tried to play. I cracked my kneecap in half my first year.
Yeah.
And I was never the same.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Yeah, I know your story about that. It was just that he was such Oakley out of that generation was a guy that made it in the NBA long term, but in that generation, Ralph Talley was a beast.
He was no joke. He was a beast, no question. I remember. Go ahead, man.
All right, now to the points that I want to make. When you were on Golick and Wingo yesterday, you had used the analogy and compared the rule changes in the NFL. But by that same token, Rodgers and Brady and Manning wouldn't be considered the greatest quarterbacks of all time because the rule changes in the NFL significantly increases the chances of a good quarterback to be a great quarterback. So as far as you're saying,
hold on, James. You gotta represent my points accurately. I was making the point to Golick that he could appreciate that, but in the same breath, I understood that the sports they're two different sports, and so the kind of effect that it would have on one sport would pale in comparison to the effect that it would have on another sport. But I also point out that when I'm talking about somebody like Aaron Rodgers, you see such a discrepancy in overall talent, to bring up what you just brought up. I believe Aaron Rodgers to be the most talented quarterback I have ever seen. Doesn't matter who it is, whatever you pick or whatever. His talent is so surreal that to me it transcends errors. That's what I believe. But go ahead.
All right. My other point is, and a lot of people forget this part as far as it goes to rule changes in the NBA. Maybe those first 3 rings, but those rule changes was made to help Michael Jordan, not him personally, because they didn't, it wasn't just to open up the interior of the paint. And so Michael Jordan benefited from those rule changes.
Yeah, but those rules changes didn't have the drastic collateral effect on the game that these rule changes have had to appeal. And let's face it, the rule changes were made to ingratiate itself with the European audience. And by European, I don't mean white. I'm talking about the European ballers out there. The NBA has successfully gone about the business of globalizing its brand. And they've assisted in doing so by rule changes that have opened the floor up, has been more catered towards skill and really enforced the diminished physicality that we have witnessed. because that's how Europeans, overseas play the game of basketball. That helped globalize the sport of the NBA. So it was an incredible business decision on their part. They don't deserve to be maligned for it. I'm just simply saying, in an era where you saw greatness reduced by one's physicality, you don't see that happening today, and that's never been something that LeBron James had to concern himself with.
Well, look at it this way. Karl Malone or Xavier McDaniel, who has the same physique, maybe a little more muscular, but as far as the same physique, they had no problem with the physicality. LeBron is more athletic and probably in better shape than both of those gentlemen.
But time out. You're wrong about this. You're wrong about this. They never played in this era. Karl Malone and Xavier McDaniels are horrible examples because they never played in this era, A. And B, Karl Malone and Xavier McDaniel were not the same size. If you stood next to Karl Malone compared to Xavier McDaniel, you know what I'm saying. They weren't the same size. But, James, I got to go because I got other callers to get to. But I hear your point. I can appreciate it. I respectfully disagree, though. Let's go to Lewis in California. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, Lewis.
Yeah, Stephen, you opened the show up with a question about the underdog. I think LeBron's been mainly an underdog in a lot of these finals, except the first one was obvious. But most of the other ones were, he made it to the finals in the first year with chemistry issues throughout the whole regular seasons when he went to Miami, when he went back to Cleveland. And because of the choke job in Dallas and because of, the fall that he had against the Spurs that second time around, by the time he got to Golden State, they weren't going to give him a chance. And so I think a lot of that has to do with a culture also of, built-in excuses sometimes. 'Cause I think he's the only superstar that I can recall. I don't ever recall Michael Jordan having built-in excuses going into an NBA Finals.
Right.
Or Kobe or Shaq or any of those. I mean, Shaq got hammered when he lost and got swept by Houston, when he was in Orlando. But nobody ever provided built-in excuses for any of those stars in the past. And I just don't understand why in sports journalism, it just seems like maybe it's just me, but it just seems like there's a culture of built-in excuses for this guy.
There are a few media apologists for LeBron, there's no doubt, but there's also a hell of a lot more Joe Public apologists for him, too. People out there in the world that they feel to make excuses for him. But I got to run. I appreciate the call, and your point is valid. I don't disagree with it. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. We'll close out the show with your calls, previewing Game 1 of the NBA Finals. It's Stephen A. live from Oakland. Site of Game 1 of the NBA Finals between the Golden State Warriors and LeBron James and his Cleveland Cavaliers tonight. ABC, by the way. You're listening live to Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
Guess what?
You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show right here on ESPN Radio. Need a reminder, I would deeply appreciate the support of all of you tonight. Those of you who hear my radio show, the Stephen A. Smith Show, 250-plus markets across the United States of America, plus listen to me on Sirius XM Channel 80. Tonight, for the very first time, a special NBA Finals Sports Center edition with Stephen A. Smith. Live from the NBA Finals, I am hosting Sports Center from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is 4 to 5 p.m. Pacific Coast time. I will be hosting a special NBA Finals edition of Sports Center, as I will be doing on game days throughout the NBA Finals. Same time, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern, 4 to 5 p.m. Pacific. And I would appreciate y'all's support. It's rare that I've never done this before. It's new to me. This ain't First Take. This is me hosting it. I ain't got to share the airwaves with nobody. It's mine. It's mine. I'm running the show. It's kind of strange. But I would deeply appreciate any support you could give me, because as I remind y'all all the time, there is no me without y'all when it comes to me on the airwaves. Make no mistake about it. I'm incredibly grateful for the support that I continuously receive from all of you, and I love you for it, and I appreciate it. All I ask is that it keeps coming, preferably tonight, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern, 4 to 5 p.m. Pacific on ESPN. Special edition of the NBA Finals, special Sports Center edition of the NBA Finals with Stephen A. Stay tuned. Let's get back to the calls. Dale in Kentucky, you're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, Dale.
Hey, Stephen A. I've been listening for a long time.
Thank you, sir.
Kevin Durant, I've followed him more or less ever since he got out of high school, and he's nothing but a great player. There's no doubt about it.
Superstar.
But if you took Kevin Durant, you stuck him in Cleveland, you took James out and put him in Golden State, how many rings would Kevin Durant have? A gentleman a while ago was talking about, Kevin Durant would be one behind him after this series. Would that be the same if it was the other way around?
No, it would not. No, it would not. Kevin Durant proved that when he was in Oklahoma City.
Well, I just wondered, earlier in the season when Steph went down, it seemed like Golden State lost a lot. And there was a lot of excuses going around. Would they have lost that much if James would have been in Golden State at that time?
No. Dale, I got to run. I appreciate the call, but you're right. You don't make a wrong point there. You really are correct. Got to give you credit where credit is due. Jose in Miami, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me real quick, Jose. Go ahead.
Hey, Stephen A. Congratulations on the live edition of Sports Center. Well, just get straight to it. I always agree with you, Stephen A., 100% of the time, but you started off the segment talking about LeBron James being at fault for being 7 out of 9 times an underdog on the finals.
No.
And I have to...
I didn't fault him. I asked the question. What do you make of the greatest player in the world being an underdog 7 of 9 times? Go ahead, 20 seconds. It's yours. Go ahead. Answer it.
Well, what I make of it is pretty simple. They were underdogs. The teams were not legitimate contenders. Obviously, the first year with the Cavs, that was a horrible team. And honestly, when they faced the Warriors the first time, it wasn't because of Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving, getting injured. They would have won that series and would have been a whole different conversation. Who knows? Maybe the Warriors haven't been the same team.
I got to get on out of here. I appreciate the call, but you know what? They should have handled their business against Dallas. They didn't. One could argue they should have handled their business against San Antonio both times, but that's neither here nor there. Game 1 tonight. Game 2 tomorrow. I'll be here. Talk to you then. Peace.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.